Butterfly. Chapter 2. Ellen. Ellen shuddered as drum beats rattled the pictures on her living room walls. She had to disengage again. An air of helplessness swept over her like high tide. She should be angry, but she's not. Her biggest fear was eventually resenting her son. There's no forgiveness for such an action. Parents must love their children despite the challenges life brings with them. Fantasies of television families waltzed through her head as she began clearing the breakfast dishes before beginning the rest of her day. "Davis, please turn that crap down," she called as her words rode the sound waves like buoys in the ocean. The deplorable pounding continued mercilessly. She wondered if he'd even heard her. Of course he hadn't. He would never simply ignore her. The child that she prayed for every night would never repay her with disregard. He only needs some time to calm down and wake up, that's all. The thud of her wedding picture vibrating off its ornate stand, teetering onto its face, disrupted her thoughts. Ellen's sofa table held the history of her life in an intentional display of accomplishment. Images of the past she wanted others to see peered over the back of the Davenport. She knew deep down that it was a lie. Mostly a lie? No, definitely not a lie. These pictures prove with certainty that there are moments of normality. She required this evidence to continue hoping that her child would get better. Of course he will. He can do it. Look at him there, saying cheese for the camera with love in his heart. Patience, Ellen. Patience. It's just a phase. An 8-year phase. It'll end any day now. Be patient, Mom. You got this. She closed her eyes and picked up the fallen photographs, sitting regally in its silver-plated frame. It didn't fall enough to break, she convinced herself silently before flipping it over to check. An apprehensive blink verified its consistent perfection. The image transported her to a different time when there was no motherhood. She remembered feeling so special on her wedding day. Her Aunt Peggy was a cosmetologist and flew all the way from Oregon to guarantee the bride's long brown hair was perfectly swirled and molded atop her head like a crown. Ellen giggled at the girlish recollection of her aunt sculpting her hair, seeming like it was moving in slow motion. She pondered how simple life was then. She had the naivete to become aggravated when Penny complimented her shiny dishwater blonde hair. Ellen's hair was brown, not dishwater blonde. Who has dishwater that's brown? Not in my house, she thought with a laugh. For a moment she tried to recall if she actually cried gently through her prayers every night back then as she does now, hoping to wake up the next day to a miracle. She nodded her head affirmatively. "Of course I did. Don't be silly. That's who I am," she mouthed as she stood the photograph back up and returned it to her place on her altar of hope. Ellen's body surged as a resounding baritone voice distracted her contemplation. "What's up, sunshine?" Max exploded over the banging freight train that she had managed to tune out entirely by now. He was beautiful and funny to her with his fingers in his ears, all the while beaming with a smile that dwarfed the sun. She loved him so much. He hadn't changed a bit in the 20 years she'd known him. Without hesitation, she rushed to embrace him, throwing her arms around his muscular blue-collar structure. She felt his muscles tighten as her feet left the ground for a moment. The flex of his broad chest as he lifted her into him was reassurance that she was safe. She didn't want to speak. The roaring of her son's determination flooding through the corridor implored her. Her security must wait again. But it sure was wonderful for the few moments it had lasted. "I asked him to do his homework. He's having one of those days," Ellen shouted into her husband's ear. Max gingerly returned her to her feet and placed his hands on her shoulders like a gentle god. "I'll handle the concert," he proclaimed with a simple confidence that always put her at ease. He faded into the darkness of the hallway. The explosion of Bedlam shot through the house like a bullet as Davis's bedroom door opened. Within moments, the auditory assault had ceased. Ellen waited patiently for Max's return. She instantly lamented not being brave enough to confront him herself. She recognized her avoidance's fragility and considered this a flaw. A chill snaked through her chest as a specter of dread strengthened her self-doubt. Max was not returning. Is her baby all right? Terror clouded her head as she pictured her son lying motionless on the floor of his bedroom while she was irresponsibly ignoring his needs to attend to her own childish fantasies of youth. Her son's dead because she ignored him. She began to shake. That's our boy, Max gloated as he floated toward her. He should be okay in a minute. I love you so much, Ellen said as hysteria vacated her soul and tears relentlessly rained from her chin. She didn't even realize she was praying.